Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank the gentleman for yielding. The Majority Leader just a few minutes ago used the term danger to our democracy. Danger to our democracy. Think about this. Democrats have closed the Capitol, allowed proxy voting, kicked Republicans off committee, won't let Republicans serve on this select committee. First time in the history of the Congress, the Minority Leader was not allowed to put on a select committee the individuals he or she selected. First time in the history of our nation. Democrats are trying to end the Electoral College, trying to end the filibuster, trying to pack the court. This committee, the January 6th committee, altered evidence and presented to the American people as if it were true. And they accuse us of being a danger to our democracy? Mr. Gates was right. We got a border that is complete chaos. We have $6 gas in California, $4 gas everywhere else in the country. We have crime at record levels in every major urban area in this nation. And we have an inflation problem that's at a 40-year high. And this committee has more contempt resolutions for a purely political reason. I think the whole committee is purely political, designed to do one thing: keep President Trump off the ballot in 2024. The gentlelady from Wyoming, in her opening comments, used the term false message. False, she used to say big lie. Now I guess it's false message. And I just jotted down, I thought when she said, I started jotting things down. False, think about all the false messages we've got from them in the last few years. They told us the protests in the summer of 2020 were peaceful. Got $1 billion worth of damage around our cities that says it wasn't. They told us the dossier was real. They told us it was Republicans who wanted to defund the police. That's almost laughable if it wasn't so serious for our law enforcement and for the families who live in those areas where mayors and city councils did defund the police. They told us the FBI didn't spy on the Trump campaign. We know that wasn't true. We got Inspector General reports that tell us all kinds of things about what they did in front of the FISA court. They said Trump colluded with Russia. We got a Mueller report, 19 lawyers, 40 FBI agents, 30 million hard-earned American tax dollars in that report that said that false message was just that, false. They told us COVID didn't start in the lab. Sure looks like it did. They told us the lab wasn't doing gain-of-function research. Sure looks like it was. They told us the vaccinated can't get it. We know that's wrong. Every day there's a new announcement. A member of Congress is getting it. Fully vaccinated, boosted, everything else. They told us the vaccinated can't transmit it. They told us that was wrong. And you talk about the biggest false message that's just been confirmed in the last week, how false it was. The Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. The Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. October 22nd, 2020, 2 weeks before the election, candidate Biden, in a debate, is asked about his son's business dealings with foreign companies. He says, quote, nothing was unethical. He said, my son has not made money with business interests with companies with an interest in China. And we all know there are 4.8 million reasons why that statement was not accurate. And how do we know? Washington Post told us. Not me, not President Trump, not Republicans. The Washington Post told us last week. 2 stories last week, a week ago today. One at 11 a.m., one at 11:04 a.m. 2 8-page articles, 4 minutes apart, confirming what we knew, but what big media, big tech, Democrats colluded to keep from the American people just days before the most important election we have, the presidential election. Who's going to be our next commander-in-chief? The laptop was real. The eyewitness was real. The emails were real. The only thing fake was that collusion from those individuals, those entities, to keep important information from we the people in the run-up to the most important election we have. And oh, by the way, they were joined by 51 former intel officials, joined in the collusion. You know, it's also interesting. It's funny how that story has changed. 18 months ago, started off, wasn't his laptop. Quickly switched to, well, it was his laptop, but it was Russian disinformation. And now it is, well, it wasn't Russian disinformation, but Joe Biden had nothing to do with it. Now it was, well, Joe knew what was going on, but he wasn't really involved in anything wrong. Ron Klain told us that. Chief of Staff told us that Sunday. We need to be focused on the issues that the American people want us to focus on. If you want to talk about danger to our democracy and the biggest false message, I would say what happened, one of the biggest dangers to our democracy and one of the biggest false messages is what happened 18 months ago, where that story was kept from the American people. We could dig into that, find out what went on there, why that happened, and we could also focus on the record crime, record inflation, record price of gas, and the chaos on our southern border that's about to get worse as the Democrats look to, as the Biden...
Gentleman's recognized for 30 more seconds.
Title 42. I urge a no vote. Yield back.
Gentleman from Indiana reserves. Gentleman from Mississippi is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I have no further speakers and am prepared to close.
The gentleman reserves.
I reserve.
The gentleman from Wyoming.
I have no further speakers either. I'm prepared to.
The gentleman from Indiana.
Speaker, prepared to close.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, it might feel really good today for my opponents on the other side of the aisle. It might feel really good in the vindictive sort of way to vote to put their political opponents behind bars. That might feel really good for my opponents across the aisle, but I guarantee you that history will not look back kindly on those actions in the years to come. I guarantee it. It couldn't be any more un-American what they want to do today to vote to put two men behind bars purely because they disagree with their politics and the man that they worked for. I can't think of a bigger reason for my opponents to vote no on such an un-American resolution. I urge all of my colleagues to vote no and do the same. I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you. The gentleman yields back. The gentlewoman from Wyoming is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it does not feel really good today. It feels sad, and it feels tragic that so many in my own party are refusing to address the constitutional crisis and the challenge that we face. The ranking member of the Judiciary Committee went to law school. I'm not sure if he passed the bar, but he knows that we all have an obligation to abide by the rulings of the courts. So yes, it was a false story. Yes, it was a big lie. In fact, former Vice President Pence has said that what President Trump wanted him to do was, quote, un-American. It was also unconstitutional, and it was illegal. Mr. Speaker, what gives me tremendous hope, though, is although so many in my party in this body have put loyalty to Donald Trump ahead of their oath to the Constitution, the committee has interviewed scores of Republicans from around the country who, in fact, have shown the kind of tremendous bravery and dedication to public service that every American can be proud of. Republicans who were appointed by President Trump to posts in the Department of Justice, Republicans who stood firm, Republicans who threatened to resign, and who refused to participate in President Trump's efforts to corrupt the Department of Justice with the stolen election lies, yes, lies, that led to January 6th. We've heard from Republicans serving in state legislatures and state and local governments who also stood firm. Mr. Speaker, it is crucially important that this body hold these gentlemen in contempt. It's crucially important that they have to abide by their subpoena. I urge a yes vote, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from Mississippi is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me say for the record, if there's any member on the other side who feel the strength to come and testify before our committee, I invite them right now to let us know, and we will gladly entertain whatever information they have as to what happened on January 6th. Some of them ran out of this building fearing for their life. So there's no question that something happened. And House Resolution 503 says, absolutely, we have to find the facts and circumstances as to what happened and why, and make recommendations. And that's what we have to do. We have the constitutional power to issue subpoenas. If people do not follow subpoenas, we have the right to bring them before this body and recommend contempt citations. And that's what we're doing today. So it doesn't matter that if they were a father, a mother, a sister, a brother, had children. If they break the law, they break the law. No one's above the law, and that's what the point we're trying to make. We asked the individuals, subpoenaed them to come before the committee, and they chose not to come, and therefore they broke the law, and that's why we're here today. So, Mr. Speaker, as I've mentioned when I testified before the Rules Committee, it's absurd that there should be any disagreement at all about why we're here for this contempt resolution. If you listen to the arguments from some of my friends on the other side, they have very little to say of substance of this matter. We hear excuses, we hear attacks about process, we hear scaremongering about the Select Committee. Let me remind my colleagues, we've conducted over 830 interviews and depositions. And again, I invite any of them to come talk to us if they want to. Now, if for some reason they are reluctant or afraid, then I feel sorry for them. Our constitutional democracy was challenged on January 6th. We have to fix this. Over 200 years, we've operated in complete freedom, and all of a sudden, this institution was attacked, and we have to fix that. We are the #1 democracy in the world, but we lead by example. Democrats are leading by example. This Select Committee is leading by example by bringing these two gentlemen who broke the law, who decided that it's better to deal with the law of Donald Trump rather than the Constitution of the United States of America. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my colleague, especially my friend from Wyoming, Ms. Cheney. I urge every member to support adoption of this resolution. Mr. Speaker, with that, I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back. All time for debate has expired. Pursuant to the rule, the previous question